All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Hakodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders, a great millstone. Peace and salutation to the Akim, to the elect that are scattered throughout the four corners of this earth, pushing this truth and faith and sincerity. I'm the brother Shamala from the GMS Houston Camp, and this lesson is going to be entitled Come Boldly to the Throne of Grace. Okay, because we are under grace, all right, during these times, which back then, we were under the law. Okay, but we're not under the law anymore. Okay, as far as having to keep it to its perfection because of Yahweh Shai, I made that sacrifice for us so that we can have faith in him and we get perfection and righteousness, through him. All right, in his death, okay, through his blood. All right, and a lot of people misunderstand that, right, and think that we don't have to keep the law, but the scriptures speak against that. Yahweh Shai himself spoke against that. So we keep the law, all right, to show our faith, but righteousness and salvation, all right, that comes through Yahweh Shai. All right, you're going to be justified through the faith in him. Okay. But this lesson is just going into the, that grace, that was given, and how it was back then. It wasn't so. Okay, we didn't have grace, back then. That arrived, that arrived with Yahweh Shai. But this is John 1:17. It says, "For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahweh Shai Mashiach." So Moses gave the law, right, through the Most High. All right, he gave the law, and it was just an agreement, like, y'all do this, all right, and this is going to be the blessings. When y'all don't be obedient, then this is going to be the curses. All right, so it had to be done, meaning the law had to be followed, or it was going to be consequences. There was no ifs, ands, buts about it. There was no grace, okay, that was given with it. Okay, but Yahweh Shai is the one, all right, the Son of the Most High is the one that brought that grace. Okay, through him. Okay. And this is very key because without the grace of Yahweh Shai, we all would be done. Okay, we wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing right now as far as teaching this word. All right, striving, to get up out of here, striving for salvation. It wouldn't be possible because in this flesh, we sin, we go off, we ain't perfect. All right, but through Yahweh Shai, all right, through the Most High, looking through the lens, okay, of Yahweh Shai, we, are perfect. Okay, if we be of the chosen, we be of the elect. All right. But this is Hebrews 10:28. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. And that's how it happened. You die without mercy. You break a commandment, all right, that was worthy. The consequence was death. You receive that penalty. Okay, nobody's gonna argue against it. You did this. This is what's gonna happen to you. It don't matter how much you begged and pleaded. You had to go through it. All right. And the key example was here in Numbers 15 and 32. And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day, which this is breaking the Sabbath. Okay. So technically, according to the law, you're not supposed to do any type of work, lift any type of burden, anything like that. All right. And he was picking up sticks. All right. And it says they found the man. So this is 2, 3 witnesses, right, or more. Okay, so he was witness, all right, breaking the Sabbath. It says, and they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron and unto all the congregation. And they put him in ward because it was not declared what should be done to him. And Yahweh said unto Moses, the man shall be surely put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. So from the Most High, he said, man, put him to death. He has to die. Because this is according to the law. The law was strict on what you had to do. If you didn't do it, you had to receive the consequence of breaking that. All right. It says he had to be stoned. And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died as Yahweh commanded Moses. Now, surely this man, you got to think about the type of mindset that he was in, right? He probably was, begging, like, please, I won't do it again. I won't do it again. It was a mistake, or whatever, right? But there was no mercy. No, it wasn't for this time. All right. Now, this is what makes Yahweh Shah great, because we can't keep all the laws perfect. So we was all subject to this. It'd be like, damn. That's why I said the law is our schoolmaster to bring us to Yahweh Shah. Because, bro, we always subject to this, man. We cannot make it. We cannot make it. Yahweh Shai is the way out. All right. But it says, Hebrews 10:28, he that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much sore punishment suppose ye shall he be thought worthy, who had trodden under foot the Son of the Most High, and counted the blood of the covenant wherewith he was sanctified in the holy thing, and had done despite unto the spirit of grace. Okay, because Yahweh brought in that spirit of grace. All right. So it will go worse with someone who leaves this truth after going into this truth, after believing. Right. And you basically spitting on Yahweh. All right. You're despising him from coming into this and separating. All right. For whatever reason. Okay. But just like John said, right, that grace came with Yahweh. This is John 8:1. Yahweh went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple. And all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? Now it says they were correct on that. Adultery, the woman and also the man, okay, was supposed to be put to death. All right. So now they come with the Yahweh Shai, with the question. They were always trying to trip him up to see if he actually against the law, right, against what they taught, and all of that. Right. But it said this, they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him, right? Because he wouldn't be like, nah, and don't do it. All right, we ain't following that. And they're gonna have something to accuse him of. All right. But Yahweh Shai was all about the law. But he came with that grace. But Yahweh Shai stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that was without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Yahushua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. So it said, he that was without sin cast a stone. So ain't none of y'all perfect. All right? Because Yahweh could have brought up accounts, right, against all of them. Okay? For them to be put to death as well. We all have done things that's worthy of death in our lifetime. Nobody is keeping the law, statutes, and commandments perfect. Nobody. When Yahushua had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Yahushua said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. So just don't do that no more. He forgave her, showed that mercy. All right, showed that grace. And then that was it. And ultimately, this woman represents Israel. All right, through the Spirit. This is Romans 5:20. Moreover, the law answered that the offense might abound. And it's the only way you can offend is through the law, statutes, and commandments. All right, through the law, is sin. So the laws is what brought in sin. Not because the law was imperfect, because we was imperfect. But where sin abounded, grace did much more abound. So when there is sin, the grace, right, through Yahushua's blood, right, the grace is poured over that. The grace abounds more than that sin. All right. Back then, it was just a sin, and you gotta face the consequence of death, that penalty, if it came with that particular law. All right, that was broken. All right. But now it's with grace. It's coupled with grace now. All right. So where, we don't get that punishment. We don't get that, that penalty of death from the law because Yahushua died for us. Okay. It says that sin reigned unto death, right? Because, death came into the world, right? Through what it says through Adam. Right. And that's how it trickled down unto us from his disobedience. All right. And this chapter is going into how they used the first Adam, the last Adam, right? And then he came back, right, to fix everything, basically. He said, even so, my grace reigned through righteousness. So there's that sin reigned to death through the sin from the beginning, reigned to the death, the grace that came by Yahushua. All right. He says, even so that my grace reigned through righteousness unto eternal life. So this grace is going to bring that life. It's going to bring that salvation. All right. Through Yahushua. Okay. And it off on this, Hebrews 4:16. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. All right, so we come boldly unto this throne of grace. We ain't got to worry about none of this shit no more, bro. We ain't got to worry about this flesh. This flesh is not going to keep us back this time. We got that grace from Yahushua. All right. I mean, everything has been taken care of. Okay. Also, too, the scriptures say don't use your liberty as a cloak of maliciousness. So even though we got this freedom, even though we got this grace, you're not supposed to use it, right, to be wicked. All right, you use it for righteousness, to get back on track, to show your faith, to rehearse the law, statutes, and commandments. All right, show the Lord you really with him. That's what the grace is for. Okay, and you're supposed to come boldly unto the throne of grace. All right. So that's the lesson. Hope this is edifying. With that, I'm going to say shalom.